of a podcast. So, all right. Lisa Andersen, thank you so much for sitting down. How have you been?
I've been great. I've been good.
I know you were out in Montauk recently, and unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to have our paths cross. Did you enjoy yourself out there? Have you spent a lot of time out there?
I enjoyed myself a lot. I had so much fun. It had been several years since I'd been out there. Um, I don't even know how long, maybe 10 years or something like that. We used to do a lot of tours there when we were visiting stores and things like that for Quicksilver and Roxy. And it's been a while, but it was so much fun. I can't wait to do it again, actually.
I mean, like everywhere else, whether it's the North Shore or Southern California or Montauk, did you notice a big difference in the amount of people and the growth of surf culture since you've been out there?
I did notice a lot of growth. Even in the town of Montauk, there was it just seemed like there was a lot more hustle bustle, a lot more
Yeah.
stores, and such great places to eat, things like that. Like we had small opportunity to walk around town and kind of check things out. So, yeah, I did notice quite a bit of change.
Yeah, I mean, I think there has been kind of a lot of conflict there with gentrification because ultimately it was a sleepy little. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, Montauk was ultimately a sleepy little fishing town until 10, 15 years ago, and now it's, kind of become Hamptons 2.0, but it's still a
Um,
beautiful place.
no, it's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite places. I was even thinking, gosh, could I actually live here in the summer and then leave in the winter? Like it's one of those places where you kind of like the wheels start spinning and you're like, oh no, I can't do this.
Yeah, I mean, fall is really the secret spot, to be honest, because there's actually waves and the people go home, and it's
Fall's
it's
the
it's
best
really
time of
charming
year. I
out
mean,
there.
you get all the good surf, the swells from the
Yeah.
hurricanes like linger around, and you get lots of. That's just my favorite time of year anyway, no matter where I'm at. So
Yeah, same in Rockaway actually. I mean, fall's gorgeous. So you got a lot going on. You have a big drop coming out with Catis. What's that all about? How long have you been working with them?
yeah, with Caddis, I started working when they started, and I'm probably not correct on the time, but I feel like it's been over around 10 years. So not over, but maybe 8 to 10 years it's been, maybe longer. I can't even remember, but I was approached. I was living in California at the time, and Enoch Harris approached me, and he's like, "Hey, we have this idea to, do something with surfers that are basically like, when you hit you're too old to be marketed sort of thing, which is highly not true, obviously, but like." You kind of feel like, oh, well, you're not really the demographic anymore in certain aspects of surfing as far as in marketing with like certain products. So, Enoch comes over and he's like, yeah, we have this, we're doing readers. Do you use them? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to admit it because,
Yeah.
you're staring at screens and phones all day. And basically, yeah, I was struggling. I was buying them from the drugstores and stuff, like trying to use glasses, and the concept of wearing them was just was something he really did not want to accept, right? So yeah, he just proposed that idea to me, like we're going to use surfers that, hey, this is like, you're aging, and you might as well do it gracefully and wear something cool, and if you like it, let's do it. And I was like, yeah, this totally makes sense. I'm down.
And do you have a
So
new model dropping, or what's coming up in the near
yeah,
future?
so one of my favorite models is the very first one. It's called the Miklos, and it was their very first frame. And that's basically all I really wear. They make so many different things, but different styles and all kinds of stuff, and it's really diverse. But like this frame in particular that I'm wearing is the Miklos frame. But what makes it mine is the actual with the frame, the color of the frame, the whole concept behind it was, I'm into the ocean and I love the ocean. I love everything ocean. So I wanted the frame to be that kind of color. It's like a translucent, um, turquoisey color, but it's hard to tell when you're looking at it like right on screen. Like you'd have to hold the frame up to the sunlight, and this like pop of like turquoise pops out,
Oh, that's
and
exciting.
that for me is like cool. Like, and then just it's not too bright where you can't wear it around and feel like you stick out a little bit because I don't like to be kind of out, if you know what I mean. I like
Yeah.
don't want to stand out too much, but it's just perfect frame for me. It fits good. I wear them all the time. Yeah, it's been really fun to work with those guys.
Yeah, they're a great company. I wouldn't take the time to plug something that I actually don't believe in and that I don't wear myself. And I actually did a collab with those guys when my Hawaii book came out. They had activation at the Whalebone Space in the West Village, and we did a little photo installation. So they're good. So when's that dropping? Just so people can know to look out for them.
Oh gosh. I want to
This
roughly
summer.
say that, yeah, this summer, July, end of July. So just keep an eye out for that on the website. And I'll probably be posting a bunch of stuff as soon as I find out when and where
All
to
right.
start posting. But yeah, I'm excited. There's a partnership with Surfrider Foundation. So for every pair that you buy, you get a membership with Surfrider. And along with that, like I'm doing a surf camp next week here at hometown in Florida here, and we're doing like a big beach cleanup with my surf camps. Like all the kids that come down, I'm going to put them to work, clean up a little bit. It's that time of year where summer hits here, where the beaches are packed. You can drive on the beach, so there's a lot of people just kind of leave their stuff, and it's hard to see when you come down there to go surfing every day. And so we're going to try to clean it up when we're there.
I'm curious about what your relationship with surfing is now compared to the days when you were surfing competitively. I mean, does the pursuit of being elite at something by definition dilute the enjoyment of just doing it purely for pleasure? I mean, in other words, you had to overcome some significant odds and challenges in order to win your world titles. Was there ever a point when it became more about the goal as opposed to love of the activity? Like, did you lose your love of surfing at any point, or was it always there?
This is such a good question because I just have been going through such a transition with just that. I think that, to start, yeah, I absolutely hated surfing for quite a while. And this was just recently before COVID. I was living in California and I had like back surgery. I couldn't do rehab because when COVID hit, everything shut down. I couldn't surf, or when I tried to, it was cold. The water's too cold for me. The crowds, because everyone congregated to the ocean or started surfing, and it just felt overwhelming. Even with my equipment, I was not connecting with that. I wasn't happy with it. Like this, it just fell apart. It was like a relationship with someone that you were deeply in love with, and that just completely fell apart. And I just was like, wow, like I guess I just can't do this anymore. And it was just hard because I think that mainly because every time I went out, and I figured this out later on, was that every time I went out, I had so much pressure on myself to perform at a certain level. Whereas when you're done competing at a certain level and you step back and you try to reinvent yourself or try to find the next thing, how you detox yourself from that kind of surfing, that mindset of like you have to do a certain level every time you surf. And if you don't, then people are going to think you're washed up or you're no good, or, that whole mentality. So that was really hard for me to like get my head around because obviously the ego was in the way, but also the fact that that's what I didn't see, I didn't want to accept the fact that I had to like not surf that way. It was just something that was just driven in me for so long. It was hard to put that to sleep. And it was hard to kind of figure out like, okay, well, there was just a lot going on in my life at that time anyway. So I was struggling with that too. And having surfing not there for me was a disappointment because that was like my escapism. And not being able to get out in the ocean to balance everything out, escape and detach and, just release stuff. That was hard. So it just stayed inside and I
And
didn't
what
go.
changed?
Yeah. And my head was about to blow. I moved to Florida. I mean, something was like, okay, I need to go to Florida. And it was 2020. I bought a ticket. The plane was empty. I was like two people on a flight to Atlanta. And then I connected to Daytona. I got back here to Florida, paddled out in the surf one day. And I was like, the water was crystal clear blue, 80 degrees, and 5 people out. And I'm like, I'm home. I'm coming back home. And this is the light went on, and I was like, okay, just called everyone back in California and said, I'm not coming back. And so surfing became a different thing for me. It became that feeling again. And also just like equipment, like I realized, okay, I just want to have fun. And to be able to not have that approach to where you have to kick ass every time you paddle out or be at a certain level was something I had to really let go of and find the fun in surfing and find the solitude and the freedom in it again and appreciate it for what it was.
And I mean, what does that look like for you? I mean, have you embraced longer boards or more volume, or what, how do you let go of this desire to be the Lisa Anderson from when you're
Yeah.
21, when obviously you're
You
not?
know, it never really goes away. I mean, the quiver's still in the garage, right? Like you still throw it in the back of the truck because there's always that like, well, what if I decide, or what if, I just want to. It's always there. You kick yourself if you didn't throw it in the car anyway. But yeah, I changed to like definitely more fun boards, like twin fins quads, like shorter, fun, more volume, just faster, floatier. Water's different here. We get a lot more salt in the ocean. I don't know. It's just a different sort of flotation here for me. And the waves are smaller, less push, less power, and so everything changed. Like the entire thing changed for me, and I, you know, riding longboards, soft tops, like everything you could throw at me, I was riding because it was fun. And those even though those short boards, those performance style boards, are still in the garage staring at me. They're there because they know they're going to be used sometime. Like
Yeah.
it's a matter of when you go on a trip to Hawaii or you go to on a boat trip somewhere where the waves are a bit, that level, then you're ready to go. So.
And I'm curious, like when you travel all around the world or all around the country, does it give you fresh perspective on just how much surfing has grown, particularly women surfing, since the time when you first started?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in Montauk, I had participated in a surf, like a surf camp in the morning one of the days, and we had 40 kids there, um, mostly girls, like probably 99% girls, and 40 kids, and they skipped school to actually surf. So that was mind blowing to me. I mean, not really mind blowing because that's been the norm. Like there's just been this insurgence of girls surfing since a few decades now. When you have the likes of Carissa Moore winning a gold medal and Stephanie Gilmore winning 8 world titles, and then there's this full, there's these rock star girls you can look up to that are heroes, or like giving these girls someone to aspire to be. That helps a lot. A lot of these girls are just like, they finally have someone they can dream to be, and surfing is just, it hasn't really been there for a long time, and now it's there.
That must be inspiring. I mean, you're a part of that as well. That must feel well. That must feel empowering and proud.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we all get inspired by the things we're dedicating our lives to do because there's obviously something there guiding you. I feel like, I've had all my heroes and things like that, that I looked up to, that I aspired to be like, and there was plenty of female surfers in the generations before me, and it's nice to be able to acknowledge them, like Real Sun and Margot Oberg and Wendy Botha, Frida Zamba, to name a few. So it's like these girls now, like when I was competing, were just little kids, and now they're on tour and stuff like that. I still rub shoulders with a bunch of them because I'm still at events, watching up in the VIP area or just hanging out with them in the competitors area. And I still work with a few of the girls that work with Roxy, so I still get to be kind of front and center. It's a lot of fun.
So, I mean, I was thinking, it seems like with every youth culture movement, whether it's skateboarding or punk rock or surfing, there's this group of people who were kind of mavericks, and they set a template and opened up a lot of doors for the generations that come after them. And they're often celebrated from within the culture, but there seems to be this common theme that group is often not rewarded financially as much as the generations that come after them. Especially, with regards to women's surfing. And, I'm wondering, do you ever have any lingering resentments about the contributions that you made to women's surfing relative to some of the financial rewards you may not have gotten at the time? Is that an issue for you?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, I totally get it. I have to take these off because they're fogging up. Maybe it was that question. I don't know. But yeah. Okay. First of all, right now, like where I'm at in my life now. And I'm like, I'm comfortable. I'm not like, I don't really, I go day by day. Let's put it that way, paycheck to paycheck for me right now. But I don't have any resentment. I know that there was a time where I did, because I was younger, a bit more silly, and didn't know, like, you just learn as you go through life about how you're supposed to treat people or to behave, or what energy you want to put out there, because you don't want to put this like woe is me type energy, like that. Like you said, it's a lot of resentment that I never really carried with me, because I know that that's not good for you. It's not what you want to have inside of you, because it just that's projected onto other things. And so, I mean, I'm super, super blessed and lucky. Like, I am grateful every single day, like everywhere, and I look around and I'm just like very, very blessed and happy. Like, it's very calm and quiet and peaceful where I'm at, and I'm not stressing, so that's good. But like, I feel that, yeah, there was a definite time in my life where I was like, how am I? I mean, I struggled. Struggled trying to figure it out. Like, contracts were coming up, and they wouldn't tell me till the day before, and then that I already bounced the rent or just something like that. It would always be like last second, like just stress me to the core. But as time went on, I learned how to deal with it, prepare more, just kind of be a bit more responsible with life, spending,
Yeah.
and everything that comes with it.
But I mean, even the fact you've talked a lot about the fact when you first started surfing, you used to wear men's board shorts because that's basically all there was other than, a string bikini. And you were there for literally the birth of Roxy and the birth of the development of this whole category of like performance apparel specifically for women surfing. But, you don't have equity in that company. I mean, is there a little frustration on just from that perspective?
I mean, the company, there was a time where I did have stocks in Quicksilver. But I don't know if everyone knows, but like they went bankrupt years ago, and they were bought and owned by banks up until recently. They were just sold. So, everyone, not just me, a lot of people lost their stocks. And I didn't have a ton. I had a little bit, but I had something, and that's all gone. Like, the company, because of the industry and all the hard times and stuff that happened, everyone lost everything. And so I had to say goodbye to that and not feel you can't hold on to those things, because that's just not healthy. But yeah, it's a bummer. Like, at the end of the day, it is a bummer. But and I feel like, I know it sounds too optimistic, but it's like, things happen for a reason, and you just gotta think that there's something bigger and better out there, or it happened because this is going to happen, kind of thing. And yeah, I know a lot of people lost a lot of money when that happened. It was sad, but the surf industry took a big blow, and a lot of people lost jobs and money and all that stuff. And I'm still at the brand right now after 30 years, and that's unheard of, and I'm very lucky.
Yeah, that's pretty rare. So, we had Mick Fanning on the podcast a while back, and we talked a lot about this concept of personal sacrifice and these realizations that he came to of how so many of his relationships suffered, whether it's friends or family, because of his laser focused on being the best in the world. And on one level, it would seem like you guys have a lot in common, at least in terms of your desire to win these world titles and like a singular focus of being elite in the sport of surfing. But in another way, it almost seems like you have a complete opposite experience, in the sense that you consciously chose to run away from home and to leave your family and your friends behind in pursuit of this dream of being a professional surfer and being the best in the world. And I'm just wondering, with the perspective of hindsight and the perspective of being a parent, do you look back at some of those choices and wish that you had made some different choices? Or do those 4 world titles justify all of the sacrifices that you chose to make?
Yeah, I really don't think I had a choice in running away and pursuing that dream, because when I look back, I'm now living in the same hometown that I left when I was that age, and there's so many times that I'm driving around and I get little memory flashbacks and sort of say to myself, gosh, you were crazy. Like, how did you even do that? What were you thinking? Like, what was actually going through your head, and how did you have the courage to do that?
Are a lot of those flashbacks, are they nostalgic, or are they more traumatic?
They're both. I mean, nostalgia is just because town is town and it hasn't really changed. So you remember spots like, oh, I used to do that there, or, I used to ride my bike there, and or this and that. And then the trauma side of it is just the family life and what I was dealing with at the time. That probably was mostly what drove me away. And so that was, you know, that stuff I don't really carry with me anymore. I feel like that, I mean, as much as I can tell, I've dealt with that head on. My relationship with my mom is healed mostly. And my dad passed a few years ago, so like I don't have that like sort of, I don't have that deep traumatized vibe connection going through when I'm around home now. It's more like, that I wish that sometimes I could tap into that kid again in some aspects of my life now, like that courage to do things differently or just go for it type stuff. Like I don't even know who that person is anymore sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I watched your documentary recently, and for anyone who hasn't had a chance to see it, it's called Trouble, the Lisa Andersen story. I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic story. Talk to me about what it's like having a documentary made about you. I mean, on one level, I'm sure it's flattering on a base level, but I mean, is it incredibly intimidating? I mean, because it's a very honest and candid story that details a lot of painful chapters in your life. Like what inspired you to share that story with the world?
Well, I mean, first of all, I've been approached several times to do, I've motion picture, not like,
Scripted.
I was on a contract with Warner Brothers for several years as they were writing a life story and, do a movie based on that for several years in a row. I just kept renewing it, and then I was like, the scripts were so bad, and I'm like, this is just not me. I don't want to do this. It was awkward and difficult to read those scripts and be like, this is just not what it's like, or this is not what it was like, and this is not true to me. So several years later, I've been approached by a lot of people to do documentary, and when I was approached by Charlie Smith, I was like, okay, I think I was ready. You need just a certain time in your life, and you're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to talk. During that process, though, I realized it was getting harder and harder because, in hindsight, it was just like this, like, I guess, like being in like therapy, like where you're just sort of stuff was just coming out. But as you're talking about certain times or timelines or when this happened, memories that were buried deep in there that they just sort of came out, and then you're like, oh yeah, wow, I just remembered that was brutal. Like I didn't want to talk about that, so there was a lot of things that I just could not go into. There was just all these things started coming back, and I think what happened was it just put me in this like straight up anxiety feeling of like I didn't know what I was doing the right thing or not. It was starting to make me feel really bad. Like it was bad. And I think that doing the film, I know that it was, a big risk of just like throwing it all out there, and it was raw, and like here I am to everybody. And I think that impacted me in a way I didn't expect. Like during premieres and things like that, I would go sit at the bar and I couldn't watch it, especially after seeing it. I was just like, hey, this isn't. I felt not humiliated. I just felt really exposed.
It's revealing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so I started to like hide out, and I was like, then I got anxiety. Then I had to go get on medication because that was just I couldn't handle. And then I just realized that this was affecting me in such a negative way. But I was seeing people react in a positive way. So I was trying to balance out if I was helping people or if I was just not helping me. You know what I mean? Like, because I really wanted it to inspire and help people. That was the point. But I felt like it was not doing that to me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I would just go sit at the bar before this because I had to do Q&A after, and I was like, okay, I just have to have a beer. Like I had to calm down, not to like just detach real quick. And then like the Q&As were fine, but I feel like just the exposure that the impact that had on me was not what I was expecting it, and I felt like it did a little damage, and it took me some time to kind of recover from that. And then, but also it made a lot of things stand out that still needed to be paid attention to in my personal life or in my emotional life. There's things I needed to fix for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like right around the time that I had the back surgery. Surfing sucked. it all happened at once.
We had Sam Jones on the podcast recently, and he was talking about his experience making his Tony Hawk documentary, and he was given a great piece of advice about documentary filmmaking, and somebody had told him that as a filmmaker, you don't want your subject to sue you, but you also don't want them to send you flowers. And the director of your movie, Chas Smith, is a friend of mine, but he's not known for pulling punches and mincing his words. I mean, were there any particular scenes in this movie that were really difficult for you to watch, that were more revealing than you would have chosen?
Yeah, and Charlie and we talked about it, and I was like, I need you to pull that. I'm not comfortable with that. And he would be like, oh no, this is real. This is like real stuff. Like, people want to see that. They'll think it's funny, or they'll, it shows a part of you, or this or that. That was his argument. I get it. But for me, I was just like, no, not feeling it. There was stuff I did not want in there for sure. But, creatively, I wasn't in charge. So at the end of the day, I felt like my request didn't really matter. But it would have been nice to not have certain things in that film. I thought that just was kind of silly and irrelevant at times. It just made other people look bad too, and I didn't like to I didn't want to shed bad light on anyone. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, it was hard for me to tolerate watching. That's all.
So, for some of the scenes that were difficult, or some of the content in the movie that was difficult for you to watch, did you reconcile that by seeing the way that it affected other people? Like, did you get a sense that people had similar stories, and that this movie helped them as well, that feeling maybe they weren't alone, or that it helped them maybe seek therapy? Or, did you get a sense that this movie helped people?
I got more positive than, I don't think I had a single negative thing thrown at me. I think I just expected the worst, But I got a lot of positive feedback, and a lot of people that did approach me in a very positive way, and that was definitely a really good feeling, because it definitely outweighed the things I was feeling inside. But I'm actually kind of blown away that maybe I didn't read one, but I never saw anything that was kind of directed towards the parts that I didn't want in there. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it just must be so intimidating putting your life out there and having it in someone else's hands ultimately. That's another thing we talked about with Sam Jones, is that, that's kind of the death nail of any documentary, is letting the subject become a producer and being involved creatively. So on one hand, I completely empathize with some of the scenes that you wouldn't want exposed to the world. This is your life. I understand that. But from a filmmaker's perspective, that's what makes a real movie, So that's an interesting conflict, and it's very brave of you to kind of open yourself like that.
Yeah, I totally understand it now. Like I said, I think that, during that time, the time after that I decided to leave California, there was this huge growth period that I was going through. I think that there was so much stuff going on, personal life and surfing and that whole professional life and all that. I think there was just this huge void, and but from then to now, there's been not huge transformation, but a lot of growth and just understanding of stuff, because life, you just, everything you go through, teaches you something, and I basically learned a lot from that time until now.
There's a common theme in this movie of you constantly moving on to the next chapter and closing doors behind you and leaving people behind and not really looking back. And at the end of the movie, there's a really beautiful line. You said that you finally learned to stop running and start living. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I guess, when the whole running thing, I guess, is just from trying to run from either responsibilities or situations you don't want to confront, whether it's relationships or work situations, family, children. I had so much stuff I was dealing with. I think I'm talking about relationships. And there's, I'm a huge empath, so I think that part of me is just running from accepting people for who they are, running from acceptance of all kinds of things. And I would just like to see the good in people, to, like be optimistic, or just like, oh, that's just whatever. And I basically would always run from those things. And I would run and run and run. And I never really knew how to confront those things. And once I figured it out, I was just like, okay, well, once just take that one step, like of just being brave enough, or to just tap into that kid that got on the plane and left. Then, once I started to tap into that courage to deal with things head on, then I stopped running and just started living more. Making that big move back to Florida and letting it all go and leaving the past behind, walking away from all the negative aspects of my life that I didn't want to deal with. That's when I started living.
Wow. All right, we're going to switch gears and lighten it up for a second. There's a hilarious scene in the movie where you suspect that you're pregnant, and you go to Foodland on the Northshore to buy a pregnancy test. Anyone who's ever been to that Foodland knows that it's nearly impossible to get in and out of there without running into someone you know. You feel like you almost have made it, and you're at the checkout counter, and it turns into this almost like a John Hughes movie situation where the person at the checkout counter goes over the intercom, can I get a price check on a pregnancy test? Like, did that actually happen to you? That's like too classic to actually be true.
I swear to God, it happened. Like, I think what you have to understand in my life, I almost like feel like I manifest those things in my head, because I kind of feel like I'm predicting them to happen. It's like I have this strange way of like seeing things happen before they do. And because of the circumstance, it's almost like I willed it to happen because I was so worried about it, And I remember being there, and gosh, what a scary time, because obviously you're like, you're kicking yourself in a lot of ways, but also just terrified. And I'm competing at Sunset Beach, and it's probably 10, 12 feet. And here I am, and I remember just like, I don't know, it's scary just to even think that you're going to buy one of those things. You're 22 years old. Yeah. In Hawaii. And yeah, Foodland's crazy. Like, you walk in there and you're just like, hey, what's going on? Da, da, da. See like a million people in there. I remember grabbing like I don't know if it was a magazine or something to lay on top of it when it was laying on the thing as it goes through. And the lady for sure just like grabs a thing, and I'm just going, oh no, not now. Like, someone's going to be walking right in, or just, I couldn't even believe it. It was the craziest thing I ever had dealt with. At that time, I was just like, this is not happening to me.
So it turns out that you were pregnant. And the fascinating thing for me about watching that scene in the movie is that you were so much more concerned with the impact that being pregnant would have on your ability to stay on tour and your ability to perform, rather than the fact that you were pregnant with the baby of the head coach. I'm sorry, pregnant with the baby of the head judge while you are on tour. And at face value, that just seems like an indisputable conflict of interest. But it didn't really seem like it was at the time. Does that speak to the change in how we view privacy in an age of social media? Because the internet would go berserk if that happened today. Was it really not an issue back then?
Would I be like a lot more well off financially if that happened? I don't know. I don't know. I just think that, yeah, you're right. Like, I forget that we didn't have that kind of stuff. We were still picking up phones and dialing numbers. So, geez.
But yeah. It was an open secret, right? People did know within the community, yes. And within the athletes knew. Yeah. Did they have a problem with it?
Surfing at that time was not obviously a huge, it was a governing body of sport, but it wasn't as big as it is now, obviously. And so Renato was the head judge at that time, and what he did was basically they hired a head judge for the girls' tour, or girls' heats. And so whenever there was women's heats, he would just leave the contest area, like the entire, leave for a couple of hours and come back. And so that's how they fixed that, because there was a lot of calls where this happened and that, and it's because he's the head judge. That always would happen. And, I'd surf my butt off and still there'd be controversy. But, that was fair. What else I mean, would I have done the same thing? Maybe if it was someone else, like you did. I mean, that's just what it looked like. You had to
Yeah.
give
Was
that.
there conflict with your fellow competitors and the other surfers because of that?
Yeah, I mean, there'd be calls where, someone got a score and they'd be, oh, well, they would blame it on Renato, but Renato wasn't even there. You know what I mean? Like I said, he would be leaving the area. And it was definitely an uncomfortable situation. I didn't want to be in that situation. I was in that situation. I later find out that I don't want to be in this situation. So a couple obstacles in my life at that point I had to work through. But yeah, at that time it was difficult. It was scandalous. It was like crazy. And if there was social media, it would have it would have broke the internet, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, you and I, we've crossed paths briefly a few times on the North Shore. Obviously, we've never got a chance to really sit down and talk this much before. But I think I actually have a great picture of you and Mark Cunningham in my Hawaii book. So I'll make sure you get a copy of that. But we've had a lot of people on this podcast, like Benji Weatherly and Nathan Florence and Mick Fanning, talking about just how much the culture of the North Shore has changed over the last couple generations. Specifically, the hierarchy on the North Shore, or specifically the hierarchy in the lineup and this kind of aggressive localism that was such a hallmark of the North Shore for so long. And I'm wondering what your perspective was as a female surfer. Did that kind of alpha male culture over there, did it make it more difficult for you to get waves and to get what was yours and be treated fairly? Or was there almost like a reverse misogyny whereby they almost looked out for you and took care of you and made sure you got waves because you were a woman? I mean, was that a factor at all, or neither of those?
I honestly feel like there's a bit of both. I've had both experiences because, I had this approach to surfing in the North Shore because there was always, people would say, or you'd hear, you can't be that way, you can't act that way, this is how you act, or this guy got his ass beat, or did you hear about that guy? And you just know that that's the way it goes. There's just a respect, and you just need to bring your respect. That's it. That's period. And I still do. You have to. But I just had this approach when I go surfing. The intimidation was out the window. I was just like, so much going on. The action of the surf together, like so many people trying to be in the spot, and it was intense. And I probably didn't get a lot of waves, or I'd go surf really average, crappy waves. I surfed actually, it's called Monster Mush,
Yeah.
Stone Zone. I would surf there every day because nobody would be out. And you could ride like your 7.0s and your like big guns and your small boards, and that would be the only place I'd surf because everywhere else was just too gnarly. Every now and again I'd have to surf at Rocky Point or Rocky Rights or off the wall or something like that to get photos to supply your sponsors or to make those guys happy, to get imagery and things like that, because that was the big deal, like getting photos. That's how you became who you were, to get magazine clips and things like that. That's where that was the working part of the tour, was Hawaii.
Yeah.
Because that's where everything happened as far as photographs and things like that. So you did have to put in the hours. And I remember surfing a bunch of places, and I remember one time I heard someone got slapped by a guy, and it was a girl. And the way I would approach it was just to be like, sit back, never sit in the peak, always sit on the shoulder, like just make sure you're not sitting up next to somebody, like give people space. Like there was this protocol that I had that when I surfed was just to smile and stay out of everyone's way. And if a wave comes, it's yours. No one's on it, it's yours. But like, stay out of the way and smile, and everything will be cool. And that was kind of my approach to surfing in Hawaii when I was younger. And I mean, now it's the same. It's exactly the same. But now at this point, like everyone's sort of, and we've grown up together. We're like family now, and so now there's that definite, reverse where, and at the time too, like people want to see you go because they want to see, oh, I heard you're good, I want to see you catch a wave. So there's that like push of letting you go, or maybe if you show a little bit like I want it, like they'll give it to you because you're showing a little bit of like, I want to go for it, instead of being too shy. Or sometimes you get in trouble for not going, and so it was kind of confusing. You're like, okay, I didn't go, And then you get yelled at. You're like, okay, well, okay, no, I'm a pussy. Like, I should have tried harder, okay? And so the next one, you're like, are you gonna go? Then go. I'm like, so
Yeah.
there was this like confusion a lot. But I think for the most part, I just tried to stay in my own little bubble and stay out of the friction areas and time it. Like go out when there was less people. The waves weren't as good. It was more dangerous and shallow, but at
Yeah.
least you got waves, you know.
Well, I mean, I guess just the notion of the crowds and paddling out and sitting and not getting a wave, that's a very common experience on the North Shore. But I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is, did gender play a large role in that, or was it pretty negligible?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, I felt like Hawaii, of all places we went to, there was a lot of girls that surfed. You know what I mean? So I already felt like there was a big community of girls surfing there in the first place. And a lot of the Hawaiians kind of held rank in women's surfing for a long time with Rel and what she did for women's surfing and for all the kids. And the respect that she had, you know, like there was definitely a respect for women surfing in Hawaii. And so I never felt like that wasn't present. I just felt like, if anything, that was where it flourished and that's where it kind of showed up the most.
That's good to
had
hear.
the most like respect, really. Yeah.
That's terrific. Well, so we always like to end the podcast by asking the guest to plug something that they're not directly involved in that they feel isn't getting enough attention, whether it's a book, a movie, a surfer, a social cause, anything like that. Do you want to shout something out just to kind of bring some attention to something?
How much time do I have to think about that one?
Take a breath. We'll cut out the dead air. But, yeah, it's basically just an opportunity to kind of, you know, like it could be trivial, like a great TV show you're binging, or it could be something
Oh
serious
my
like a
gosh,
cause.
I'm
Yeah.
binging so many right now. You know what? I will talk about something that I just discovered. And it is based off of a podcast. And it's called Smartless.
Oh, Sam
And I'm
Jones
dying.
Sam Jones just directed that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on is it on Max?
I think that's a great question. I want to say it's on Apple, perhaps. I don't quote me
No.
on that.
Wait.
No,
I'm
maybe I
so
think it's
sorry.
Netflix. We'll cut
Anyway,
that out.
it was basically they're out cruising on tour with their Smartless tour, and it's hysterical. I binged it till like 3 in the morning the other night. I couldn't stop. I was like falling asleep, and I'm like, no, I gotta keep going. This is too good. I can't stop. And I was trying to save it for like another day. Like I don't like binge watching like these shows because then you're like, okay, now what? But this was incredibly funny, and I loved that it was filmed in black and white, and it also was during like the kind of the middle end of COVID too, so it was eerie and strange. So it kind of brings you back to that time of like, wow, Earth was standing still, and you know you don't want to forget about certain things because you want to appreciate where you're at. So it was a good reminder, like that we were in dark times, and the black and white made it feel like that. But then these guys were funny, and it was the perfect balance for me. I enjoyed it, and I love that kind of humor. So that's just my kind of humor.
Great. Well, go check that out. It's hilarious. It's called Smartless, based on a podcast. Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down. If you hadn't had a chance, go check out Trouble, the Lisa Andersen story. What's the name of your model again? Dropping with Catis?
This is the Miklos,
Okay.
an electric iguana, and it says "Love Life" on the top of the frame.
Amazing. Go check out a pair of those. Like I said, I wouldn't plug it if I didn't actually wear them, and fantastic product. Lisa, it's wonderful. Hopefully our paths will cross soon, and I wish you all the best.
Well, thank you so much for having me. See you soon.
Absolutely.